Welcome to Digital Thread Bytes, a workforce development podcast produced by Sinclair College and the Dayton Development Coalition in Dayton, Ohio. In this podcast, the team discusses the coming revolution in digital engineering, highlighting digital transformation success stories and opportunities for learning. Here are your hosts, Jennifer Gravitt and Elizabeth Generas.
Welcome, everyone, to Digital Thread Bytes Season 2, Episode 3. And we have with us today Kuan Collins. We are so excited to have her because she is the Executive Director for Digital Innovation at Axient in Huntsville, Alabama. She has 20-plus year career in the government and this amazing pursuit of organizational change management. So we're excited to dive into what Kuan has been doing in her arena. Welcome, Kuan.
Thank you, Jennifer and Elizabeth. It's so great to be here with you guys, and always good to talk to you guys about anything digital.
Absolutely. So we'll get started by asking you, as Executive Director for Digital Innovation, what is it you do at Axient?
Great question. So I'm part of our growth team, and it's there's a lot of hats. So I look internally into our existing capabilities and delivery of services to our customers and find ways to help with modernizing our own delivery of those capabilities and transforming ourselves internally into this digital organization. And so that's everything from, are we leveraging cloud? Are we migrating as much as we can into the cloud? Are we, evaluating our own infrastructure internally? Are we doing things as digitally as possible? Security, I'm always looking at improving our security posture and modernizing how we are doing that. AI and machine learning, of course, and anything relating to data is huge. And then underpinning all of that, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit, but just digital engineering, which, I believe is fundamentally a data problem, not anything else other than data. DevSecOps, so automating through that pipeline, the CI/CD pipeline, and then employing agile methods as much as possible, where, of course, it makes sense. And then on the other side of this is looking forward, right, to our, net new work and new customers. And how do we build repeatable process and solutions in those areas that I just mentioned so that we can continue to grow ourselves as well as help our customers as much as possible with their own digital transformations.
That's incredible.
That is a lot. Wow.
It is a lot. It's a lot. It's fun. And every day is a new day. And it's, I call it mental gymnastics. It's always like, so which customer and which problem and what are we trying to do? And so it's a lot of fun.
That's exciting.
I also think it's great that you have both an internal and external view of digital innovation.
Yeah, I think it's really important, to drink your own champagne kind of thing, right? So if we're going to be the experts that come in and help the government or help to augment the government and help with building their own solutions, we need to have that rigor and that culture internally. So I do think it's absolutely necessary for anybody in this business to be a practitioner and deliverer of the capabilities.
It's easier to showcase it that way too.
Absolutely.
You're not just passionate, you're passionate because it works.
Right. And understand where it doesn't work and what challenges presented itself in getting there.
I found this great quote online. If you Google Kuan Collins, this article comes up. You said innovation requires discomfort. You have to become comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. We've had a lot of conversations about digital transformation. This is episode 3 of season 2. And I think this is the first time someone's really laid out that it's uncomfortable and it's okay. But it sums up a barrier for people. No one wants to feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So how can we move into this space and become comfortable with being uncomfortable?
Yeah, it's a huge barrier. Absolutely. And anytime, we have an engagement with a new customer or just internally with a project, it is a major fear that we're going to break something, right? That with this change, with this new technology, with this wanting to go faster, it is going to be undisciplined and it will break everything. And, operations as we know it will cease to function, or we'll create undue security risks and cause problems from that perspective also. So yes, the fear and that discomfort of changing is a huge thing to overcome. I think we need to acknowledge it, right? I think everybody needs to be aware. Awareness of the fact that we have that barrier is critical, because it's not going to go away, and it's human nature, and there are good reasons for it, right? We have that fear come up because we are concerned about introducing risk into the very important work that the government is doing. I think as long as everybody goes into it with that understanding that we don't want to introduce risk, right? If anything, we want to mitigate risk and we want to improve, right? The outcome has to be very clear that we want to improve the way people are behaving, people are working, the ways that we can deliver better capabilities to the warfighter ultimately. So nobody wants to do anything, do no harm has to be our basis for approaching any project. And understanding, I love the book, Hacking the Bureaucracy. I don't know if you guys have read it by
No, but we love a good book recommendation.
Yes,
yeah,
we do.
so a really amazing discussion. So Nick Sinai and Marina Nitze, Nitze. So really great discussion about, again, practitioner experience with helping the government to transform and change and modernize. And all about starting where the government is, right? So we have to start where they are. We have to start with understanding first how the operations is functioning and what are the problem areas, and then addressing how the technology could help to solve that problem. And being very clear with that linkage and traceability to problem and outcome, expected outcome. So I think that's the best way to, one, build the trust in the environment, right? That you're not trying to hurt anything, you're not trying to break anything, and you understand the reasons why we have these stringent requirements. And while in some cases it does stifle innovation because it's so complex to overcome, but it's needed and necessary. And then starting not always with the big bang solution, right? So starting with small wins where we can demonstrate that, that we are actually changing things, that we are actually moving the needle, we are transforming. This is not about technology for the sake of technology, and so we can, sound cool that we did cloud and we did, automation and AI. It has to be meaningful, it has to be relevant, it has to actually drive change and outcomes.
I love that because, even as humans, we don't grow in our comfort zones.
Absolutely, right.
That's not how it works.
That's a great point. Yeah, that growing edge.
And that discomfort really is what is the forcing function for change. It's the forcing function for learning. It gives you that opportunity to learn. When everything is comfortable, you don't need to worry about anything. You just kind of keep going, right?
Right. And it's very easy to become complacent in that place.
Yeah.
Well, you've also shared with us a digital framework with 5 areas. You kind of touched on those: cloud adoption, customer experience, security, analytics, and infrastructure optimization. How did this develop, and where are we headed in digital transformation based on this?
Yeah. So it really was developed by what the government was sort of signaling that they were interested in, that they were concerned about, that they, as well as industry, and where industry was heading in terms of, new technologies that could be beneficial. So it's a synthesis of both sides, sort of, what were the needs, what were the problem areas, and then from the technology side, what was maturing to the point where it could be something that could be helpful and could drive the outcomes that the government was looking for. And I think there's sometimes too much focus on one particular pillar, right? It might be we just talk about the cloud, or we talk about AI, or we talk about security. And it matters to talk about that integration, because we can't have transformation in any one of those areas. It has to be holistic, at least to start off with. That's not to say that we can't have a pilot where we focus on one area over the other first, but in terms of a vision and setting the roadmap and strategy, All of those things need to come into play. And as we know, right, with anything that's around the data side of this, the data becomes very voluminous very quickly. And so having all of those, aspects of how we are managing that and in the infrastructure and securing the data, becomes very important. So again, to me, the framework also speaks to ways that we need to have workforce that's trained in those areas. We need to have tooling, right? So not just the tooling, not just the training, but both of them together. And then of course, partnerships with the technologists that are experts in those fields, partnered with the mission domain experts. And that's where the magic happens, because you have the right people, and the partnership between the folks that understand the mission and the folks that understand the technology. That's the best case scenario.
I think what you're talking about in these 5 fundamental pieces, if we center on these, if we look at these, it changes how we need to really educate people. We've talked about like little kids, teamwork, cooperation, be able to work with an expert to make something like this framework really come together.
Mm-hmm. It's not easy. None of this is easy. And you're right. The earlier we can train, the earlier that we can create opportunities where, this is not so hard. I mean, at the level that we're dealing with our government customers today, it's very complex, right? There's a reason why we haven't just flipped that switch and said, ta-da, we have a completely digital everything. So none of this is easy. And, on top of that, to your point, all of the soft skills that are required to get this done are also challenging. So yeah, that's very important. The people side of this, I think, is very critical.
So our fun question.
The question that we ask everyone that has ended the show so far for all of our episodes, that we just feel like it hits a different way when you think about what it is that keeps you up at night. What makes it so you can't sleep because it's on the top of your mind?
So many things. So I think in the context of the work that we are doing and the role that we have at Axient to deliver the capabilities to our customers, I mean, and as a citizen of this country, right, I think national security is the reason why we are doing what we're doing. Not that national security that broadly keeps me up at night, but are we doing the right things? Are we making the right decisions? Are we staffing and recruiting and training in the right ways so that we can ensure that we are, doing what we know we have to do and what we have said we want to do, just, keeping alignment with that direction. And alignment is really challenging, right? So alignment of all of the things, the ways that we are investing, the ways that we are delivering, the ways that we are training. And, as we just talked about, Elizabeth, all of that is complicated, right? So I think what keeps me up at night is making those right decisions and not introducing, the technical and cultural debt that we sometimes introduce into the system that just makes it harder for us to continue to move forward. So there's a lot that keeps us all up at night and keeps me up at night to make sure that we are developing the best solutions possible to help the government understand the need for the change and to want to adopt that change.
Honestly, it helps me sleep better at night knowing that you are up thinking about this.
Well, okay, that makes me feel good that I'm helping you.
Yeah, it definitely helps because it does take people doing what you're doing to get to where we need to go.
Yes, absolutely. It is a team effort, and it's a privilege to be part of the community that's working on this problem.
So if someone wanted to find out more about Axient or maybe find out more about this digital transformation framework, where would you send them?
So certainly, start with our website, follow us on LinkedIn, reach out to me directly. That would be fine. I don't know if the framework is as fleshed out in public spaces, as we would like, but certainly the solutions in those areas would be on our website. And yeah, I think, just meet us in conferences and shows and reach out and let's have a conversation. I do think, the connecting with the community on these topics is how we all get better. And I certainly am not the expert in everything. So I learn from meeting with other people and learning from them too.
Thank you so much, Kuan. You always bring a wealth of information every time we talk to you. So it has been an honor to have you on our podcast.
Well, the honor is mine, and I, really enjoy working with you guys. So excited for what's to come this year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
And thanks everybody for listening.
We wanted to take a moment at the end of this episode to pay tribute to one of our biggest supporters, actually an advisory board member on our Digital Thread initiative, and just cheerleader for what Jennifer and I have been doing, Rich Knoll.
Yes, Rich Knoll, who passed away unexpectedly on Tuesday, September 26th. And he will be missed immensely by so many people. But specifically, we wanted to give a shout out to him for all of the encouragement he gave us when Elizabeth and I were thrust into this role and knew nothing about what we were doing regarding digital transformation. And he just encouraged us and was so available to teach and share what he knew, which was a lot. We just wanted to pay homage to him today.
So Rich worked with you at the DDC in aerospace and defense. He was an Air Force veteran. He was a loving father and husband.
Yeah.
But so for me, we met Rich when we first started, but it wasn't until AIAA SciTech this year that I ran into him. And I was there in place of my boss, Greg. Greg was supposed to be on a panel and he sent me instead. And so I went and I was so nervous and so excited. And I think Rich could sense the terror that I was feeling.
You were so nervous.
I was so nervous. So I ran into Rich at this conference because he was a member of AIAA. And he sat down with me and we chatted. And he was in the, oh gosh.
It's okay. It's very hard to talk about him.
It's,
yeah.
And he was in the first row of my panel. So, gosh, he was in the first row of the panel and just so supportive. Every time we talked that whole week, he was great. And I started to get emails from him, things that he had been thinking about, things about the digital thread that he thought I should know. So he joined our advisory board after that. And it was great to have him be a resource for us.
Absolutely. I first met him at our first summit and he just wanted to share. And he was so excited about what you and I were doing. And then when we started this podcast, he couldn't have been more excited about it. And, so anytime I got the chance to see him and talk to him, he just made time. That's how he was. But then when I came over to the DDC, it was really amazing because, by the way, you rocked that panel. But anyway, and he would come into my office every day that he was there. Here came Rich. I knew if he had his cup of coffee and he sat it down on my desk, we were going to have a great chat, right? He's sticking around for a few minutes. And that's what he did. But do you know, he went around the whole building doing that for everybody. He just wanted to give a bit of himself. And he always did. My funny story was my computer was completely bugging out on me and I couldn't get my mouse to work and he thought it was a mouse problem. And so we ended up trying like 5 mice, including he went and got his own and that didn't work either. And that's when he decided to give me my call sign. And I said, okay. And he said, Decon. Oh, Rich, that's so romantic. That's great. Decon. And in the end, it didn't need a mouse at all. It needed a motherboard. But anyway, he was there and I know that man was busy, but he was going to take the time to try to help me. And he was
trying
always
to fix it.
Right. See, now I'm going to do it. So all that to say that he will be very missed. So thank you, Rich, for everything you did for us and for everything you were to so many people. We will miss you.
Thank you for listening. The hosts would like to thank Sinclair College, the Dayton Development Coalition, and our guests for exploring the digital thread. This material is based upon the work supported by Air Force Prime Contract number F48650-16-D-5524. Manufacturing and Industrial Technologies MITS, Task Order J, Regional Fabrication and Certification Training Labs, an Air Force Mantech project managed by Arctos Technology Solutions. Any opinions, findings and conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this material are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Air Force or Arctos Technology Solutions.